Alright, welcome. It's just the three of us. So we've got Ariana and Phil and myself here tonight. So this is for the Management 101, Introduction to HR Management. So we're all in the right place for the right thing, hopefully. We did all the housekeeping the other night, so I'm not going to go through all of it again because you guys are all here, so that's fine. Probably the only thing we really need to look at for this course is the course schedule. So you've got a copy of that, and it's also on Moodle. So that just gives us a bit of an overview of the topics we're going to cover again each evening and each week. The reading activities you need to do, so those are all on Moodle. There's no textbook for this one, but there are there's occasional sort of chapter out of this Rubberman textbook, which is loaded as a PDF onto Moodle for you to read it on there, but you don't need the whole book. If you go on to do level 6, this is the book for the level 6 paper.
Yeah.
Okay. This one here, you've got the 3 assessments. And so they're all worth quite a bit. And I noticed that they're not due till quite a long way down the line, like June. Now that doesn't mean that you're going to start it on the 30th of May. Because they're still worth quite a lot. So you are going to need to chip away at them as we go through the course. And I would suggest that as you're chipping away with them, that you actually email them in to me to look over what you're doing, so that I can give you some feedback early on. I don't want you to get the 1st of June and then go, oh my gosh, I've completely haven't got it right. Because they're worth so much and it's all loaded towards the end of June. Okay, so keep with those big assessments, just make sure you send them in to get some feedback as you're going, so that we can keep working towards it. But the course forum for this one, you'll notice, is worth a lot more than it is for the other course that I'm doing. It's worth 30%. So that is where I'm going to be able to see whether you're keeping up to date with the readings and keeping up to date with a lot of the assessment topics. So, for example, this week there's an assessed task which is worth 2%. Okay, so tomorrow I will email that. I'll put that up on the course forum, unless I did it today. I can't remember. I might have done it today already. And then you'll need to respond to that by next week's class. Okay. So those are worth quite a lot. So those course forums, you need to make sure you can get in there. I haven't seen any posts as yet, I don't think.
I haven't done.
You haven't done any posts? Okay, so make sure you get in. Did you find where the course forum post is?
Yeah, I think we did.
You found it? Yeah. You found it, Phil?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So make sure you go in and respond to those posts. Okay, it should send you an email, which is a bit of a prompt for you to go in and respond to them. Okay, so it should automatically email you. If you're not getting those emails, let me know. But go in, have a look at what the task is, and make sure you have a go at responding. And it's usually read this article and then answer these, questions, or think about this, or think about how this applies in a particular workplace or something like that. Okay. So yes, that's just a little bit about the assessment, which is always the most important thing that students are usually worried about. So the objectives for this one, we're going to look at what is human resource management, how does it fit and operate within New Zealand organisations, what are the main functions of HR, what is some of the key legislation that is relevant, looking at human resource requirements and where we search for personnel, so recruitment and selection. We'll look at some of the employment obligations of employers and policies, practices, and looking at different, trying to apply those to specific scenarios so that we're making it sort of a bit more real world as much as we can. Okay. So that's generally what we're going to cover. And tonight we're just basically going to do a relatively, short, concise sort of introduction to what is HR management, I guess. Any questions? So, first I would like to get an idea of what do you think HR management involves? Ariana?
Dealing with the staff side of things.
Staff? Yep.
Yeah.
Staff in the organisation? Phil?
Yeah, recruitment, stuff like that. Recruitment.
Recruitment? Yep. Recruitment, selection.
Yeah, staff.
Dealing with external clients, that sort of thing as
Okay,
well.
contracting.
Yeah.
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 So HR is actually quite a huge and significant role, and we're going to talk a little bit about what the different functions are. But firstly, we'll just sort of give a bit of a definition of what it is, and similarly with management, you can define HR in lots of different ways, but this is quite a nice one. And we're talking about all of the activities really involved for the organisation in attracting, engaging, managing, developing and rewarding people to sort of facilitate organisational performance. So, HR management needs to happen whether or not your organisation employs an HR manager per se, or whether you're a small business employing 3, 4, 5, 6 people. Okay, we still need to undertake all of those activities to ensure that we have the right people in the right place at the right time doing the right things. And that's essentially what the goal of HR is and that should ultimately facilitate the organisation achieving its goals. Okay, so there is a bit of an argument for HR actually being able to show evidence that they're adding value to the organisation in terms of making sure we're recruiting the best people for the job, and that those people are performing up to an expected standard, and that those standards are facilitating the organisation to meet their targets and plans that they've put in place. Okay, so that's a little bit about the introduction. HR management has really had quite an interesting sort of historical development, I guess. It evolved out of the Industrial Revolution. So prior to the Industrial Revolution, people worked in small farm-based, cottage-type industries where, family-based activities. After the Industrial Revolution, we started to see large organisations employing large numbers of people in factory-type environments. Okay, so what quickly happened was that it started to realise that with large numbers of people, we need systems in place for managing those people. Okay, and so that's where sort of management theory started to develop as well, which we'll talk about in our management class on Monday night. But it's also where they started to realise that they needed to look out for the welfare of the people who were working in those industries, because if those people got harmed or weren't fed or didn't have appropriate guidance and structure in their work, then they weren't able to perform up to standard. So initially, HR management really evolved out of being sort of welfare, looking at the welfare of the employees in the organisation. So back in the 1890s and such, and that was a real focus on employees rather than on the organisation and what their needs would be. It sort of has evolved over time, so we've used different terminology, and the change in terminology starts to reflect the change in the scope of what HR involves. So welfare officer to labour manager, we're talking about labour, like people are our labour force, so we're talking about a real focus. Then we moved to personnel management. And, there's some argument that there's very little difference between personnel management and human resource management. But there's also been a bit of a suggestion, I suppose, that personnel management is certainly more of an administrative focus. Okay, we're focusing on those administrative tasks, making sure that we have job descriptions, person specifications, people are employed, they have contracts, they have a performance appraisal process or whatever. So very much like focusing on those practical tasks that need to be achieved in order to employ people or to hire and to fire people, I guess, whichever way you look at it. So we did then evolve from that into human resource management, which certainly had more of a strategic focus. And when we start to talk about strategic HR management, we're talking about how how HR can contribute to the organisation achieving its big picture goals. Okay, so rather than just focusing on the administrative detail, they're looking at how they can contribute in a bigger way to making sure we've got people whose skills, knowledge, and abilities really facilitate the achievement of those larger picture objectives. More recently, we've actually started to see another change in the terminology that's used, and if you go and look at a whole range of HR jobs, if you go into Seek and search for HR management jobs, you'll get a whole range of different job titles that come up. Okay, and they're starting to sound things like human capital, business partner, people and capability manager. We've got job titles like that. Why do you think we've shifted from this terminology of human resource management to, say, people and capability manager? No idea. Phil?
No idea.
No?
No idea.
No idea.
No.
Well, I suppose, it's trying to take it to that next level in terms of recognising the fact that it is a high-level strategic aspect of the organisation, and we can really enhance the organisation's success by focusing on HR practices, okay, and having good ones. But it's also a bit of a rebellion against the terminology of humans as resources that should be used by the organisation. Yeah. Yeah.
But then there's the title of human capital.
Human capital, yeah. But capital is like more of a focus in terms of capital is an asset for the organisation. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe you might see them called human assets manager. But yeah, it's rather than thinking of it as a resource that gets used, you're thinking of it as an asset or something that is of value to the organisation. So there's a bit of a shift in terms of how that language has evolved, basically. People and capability, we're looking at how we can enhance the capability and facilitate the achievement of those targets with the people and the skills and having those right people on board. But realistically, the change in terminology probably has very little effect on how HR actually operates in most organisations. Okay?
Yep.
And especially in New Zealand. New Zealand, we have something like 90% of our organisations are small businesses. Okay? And most small businesses won't actually have an HR manager or an HR department because it's up to the general manager or the owner operator to ensure that they have the staffing needs met. Okay? We don't actually employ somebody specific to do that. It's only as you increase the size of the organisation that you start to need an overall manager having oversight of the employment processes. Okay, so yeah, sort of an average of 1.4 HR staff per 100 employees. Okay, and this is where we start to get, there's quite a bit of perhaps tension within a lot of organisations around what is HR's job and what is the job of the line manager. Okay, so the line manager, or maybe a head of a department or a business manager or something like that, will ultimately have responsibility for managing a number of people, right? Which means they need to be involved in the recruitment, the selection, the training, development, performance management of those staff. And some of the tension is that, they're busy, they might have lots of people reporting directly to them, so that's quite a big job. And they might see that actually, recruitment is HR's job. HR should take responsibility for recruitment. Well, if you've got 1.4 HR staff per 100 employees, you actually haven't got a lot of staffing time there to be heavily involved in the nitty-gritty detail of the recruitment or the selection or the performance management. It's not actually the HR people's job to manage performance. Yeah, that's the line manager's job. What the HR manager's job is to set up the appropriate policies and procedures and structure within the organisation, and to ensure that the line manager knows how to manage performance with staff. So they need to provide policies, they need to provide training in how to implement those policies, so that the line manager can be self-sufficient in making sure those things are done. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yep.
Phil, yeah?
Yep.
Yeah. There is often that tension between line managers say, oh, that's an HR job, and HR saying, no,
Yep.
actually that's a line manager job, and we're just here to
Yep.
facilitate that. Okay.
Yep.
And it will depend a lot on how much the organisation invests in HR. Yeah. Some organisations still really see HR as primarily as primarily an administrative role, where they need to make sure the paperwork is done for the recruitment, selection, and contracts. There's a lot of paperwork involved in that for sure. Tracking and monitoring contractual arrangements and leave and pay, and a lot of that all will fall under HR. Some organisations will view, and within an organisation, HR might take up any or all of these roles at different given times. They might view the role of HR as employee champion. And that's really where, HR also has that tension between representing the organisation and the organisation's interests, and acting for the employees who are within the organisation and meeting their needs as well. As an employee, if you're having a pay issue or an issue with a manager or something like that, or a performance management issue, you might trot along to your HR manager and talk to them about how they can get some advice on what you should be doing in that situation. So they are there to support the employees and to advocate for employees as well. But that's a real dichotomy, because they obviously ultimately need to be acting in the organisation's best interest, and that doesn't necessarily align with the employee's best interest. I mentioned that the role of HR might also be often a strategic role. So we generally see HR being included as a strategic role when you have an HR manager who sits on the management team of the organisation, okay, and provides advice to a management team. If you're in an organisation and HR is not a part of the management team, they're not seen as a strategic partner. Okay, they're not contributing in a strategic way. HR should be, and this is a real focus now for HR, is in how can we actually improve and enhance the strategic performance of the organisation by ensuring that we provide the best people at the right time in the right place doing the right things. Okay, so that's certainly become quite an important role. And the last one there is change agent. So HR really comes to the fore in times of change for an organisation. So if your organisation is merging or restructuring, usually restructuring involves assessing the value of different positions and whether or not you're going to retain those positions. And so that's obviously going to affect people because you're potentially going to make people redundant from their jobs. Okay, so that involves, to do that correctly and legally, you need to follow a fair process. And so HR are really there to facilitate a fair process for change, making sure that people are consulted, making sure they've got appropriate support in place. They're referred to EAP counselling, employee assistance programs and counselling, and basically to make sure that the organisation follows a legal process for change. Okay, and supporting staff through that change. So that is really quite a people-focused aspect as well. Any questions? Have you worked?
Yeah.
Yeah. What kind of organisation? Small business or a larger one?
Both, yeah.
And
I've worked in retail and hospitality.
yeah. So was there a HR person per se? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely in the retail
Yeah, in the retail. Yeah.
job I was in.
And
Yeah,
did you have direct interactions with that HR?
Very rarely, just for leave, basically.
Just for that.
Yeah, no pay.
Do you think, what kind of role do you think that they fulfilled within that?
I'd say they did, yeah, including leave, they would have done recruitment, or possibly, but it depends because there's the head of the department, the main head of most of the departments that did recruitment as well. But I'd say they would have, done like jobs like doing pay as well, because I think there's only 2 or 3 ladies in the office, so they would have done pretty much every
all of it,
administrative role.
So probably quite an administrative focus.
Yeah, I'd say mainly administrative because they were always in the office.
Yeah. Yeah. Very common, that it is primarily administrative. What about you, Phil? Any experience working in an organisation with HR staff?
Not really, no. I've sort of temping agencies most of my life, building and stuff, so not really.
Okay.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's interesting that you can just sort of reflect on if your own experience around that, or if you haven't, maybe looking at people who work in organisations with larger organisations and how they interact with HR and what kind of tasks HR are undertaking. I suppose we're sort of jumping in a little bit, but the scope of HR activities is quite significant when you start to look at all of the things that HR might be tasked with doing within an organisation. They generally, in this textbook, Rudman, they broke it down into 5 categories. Staffing the organisation, managing people in performance, developing people in performance, rewarding people in performance, and then managing employment relations. I want you guys to have a go at thinking about what sort of tasks HR might be responsible for within each of those areas. So there's a wee activity handout here. Just write down what you can think of, okay? So for example, under staffing the organisation, you might write down recruitment or interviewing or something like that, those particular tasks. How are you getting on with that, Phil? You got some ideas to write down?
Yeah, getting there. Yeah, cool ideas. Yeah.
Okay, shall we just maybe go through and just share what we've come up with and see if we can add to that, I guess, as well. So under staffing the organisation, what did you get, Phil?
Recruitment interviews, like you said.
Yeah.
Gosh, you said. Yeah.
Recruitment?
I'm managing people before. Oh. No.
Okay. Ariana?
I just put like working with people in marketing to make sure that that's kind of working, to be recruiting sort of the right people into the positions, interviewing people possibly depending on how big the organisation is and
Yeah.
departments and whatnot. And I'd say they'd be in charge of coming up with the job descriptions.
Good, yeah. Yeah.
That's all I've got.
Yeah, good. So under staffing, the organisation is quite a lot involved, planning. They need to be involved in future planning, and we'll talk about that in a later class, but looking at what are the staffing needs going to be, and then what are they currently, and what's the gap, and how are we going to fill that gap. Part of the process that person might also be doing job analysis, and if you may not have heard of that before, but job analysis is about doing some investigation into a particular job to find out what's involved in terms of the tasks and the time and the knowledge, skills and abilities required. And then we use that information to actually write the job description and the person specification. And we'll talk about the difference between those at some point as well. So job analysis, writing the job documentation is really important, and that's also in consultation with managers, because HR might not necessarily know the full details, but they can provide the template or guidance as to how to word it. Interviewing, selection processes, appointing people, welcoming them to the organisation. So we call that induction, or orientation, or onboarding, or whatever you want to call it these days. And so that's generally about staffing practices. What about managing people and performance?
Got nothing.
I've got three. I've got working with HOD.
Yeah.
I guess listening to staff needs and having like an open door policy.
Yeah.
That's all I've got.
Okay, cool. Okay. So engaging with people, sure. Managing people, assisting that performance management. So we might be looking at writing policies around or procedures as to how to do performance management, whether it's manager interviews, or we're using peer feedback, or we're using 360-degree feedback, which we'll talk about later on as well. So managing performance and managing people is really important in that sort of aspect of it's a really crucial role really for HR, and monitoring that, so basically if the managers are doing that, and we're keeping that on the personnel file for staff, and we're checking off that these are being done, if that's a policy that they're done annually or every 2 years or every 6 months or whatever. You could also add in under managing people and performance, put in here this box around employee well-being and health and safety. Okay, so HR are often involved in employee well-being initiatives, so looking at providing health insurance cover, or providing workplace exercise options, or fruit at lunchtime, or I think we all got given a pedometer or something to wear around our wrists and track how many steps we were taking in a day. Those sorts of employee wellbeing, also looking at employee assistance programs. So those things are looking at the welfare of staff, and health and safety, which is a huge task in and of itself, and often it is an HR responsibility, but often there's like a separate HR manager who might health and safety manager who might be taking up those particular tasks, especially given our current legislation, with such a strong emphasis on those health and safety obligations. Okay, there's people, managing people. Developing people and performance. What do you think that involves?
Providing training courses.
Training courses, yeah, good Phil, yeah. Providing training.
Yeah, that one. And then the only other one I've got is making sure that the right people are actually in the right roles.
Yeah.
To
begin with, yeah, that comes under staff in the organisation, but it also comes under developing, like if you identify a knowledge or a skill gap through that recruitment process, then you need to put in place, it's not necessarily that you're not going to employ that person, it's just that you might say, right, you're great for the job except that you don't have very good Excel spreadsheeting skills, so we're just going to put you through an Excel course to help you with that,
Or putting people in different roles as well, like if they're employed by the organisation.
Reassigning people better in another role, so training, but also development, so looking at career development opportunities or career progression. So looking at succession planning. I don't know if you know about succession planning. We're sort of thinking about who might be going to leave the organisation, how are we can we replace them internally if it happens, should we be training somebody internally to take up that high level position. And the benefit of that is that it gives the employees in the organisation a really positive impression that, if I join this place of work, then I have progression opportunities, within that organisation. So I'm not going to be stuck as an administrator forever. I might be able to work my way up into a more sort of senior administration position or into a management position.
So they also look at staff turnover.
Absolutely. Staff
maternity leave.
Staff in the that can also come under staff in the organisation in terms of managing turnover, managing staff exits from the organisation. But that's definitely linked into succession planning, because if you know somebody's going off maternity leave, then you can actually plan for that and get somebody organised to take over. So HR could deliver training themselves, or they could outsource and get external people to come in and deliver training, or they could, facilitate managers to find appropriate training courses through polytechs or universities that are going to be valuable for the staff. So they can also set up coaching or mentoring type arrangements to help, there's a lot involved in learning a new job, especially a complex one. So, you know, you might initially have the induction orientation, but then you might need a coach or a mentor to facilitate you through the first few months. And then you might go, right, and now I need further training in this particular area. Yeah. So really facilitating all of that. What about rewarding people and performance? What are we talking about there?
Pay rises and staff discounts.
Pay rises, discounts, yep.
Yeah, basically, like remuneration.
Yeah.
That's that.
Oh yeah, well I always get it around the wrong way too. It's remuneration. I always think it should be remuneration.
Yeah,
It's about numbers, but it's remuneration. Remuneration, which is pay, but also more than just pay. You're talking about all of the benefits that you get from working in an organisation. You know, so whether that's staff discounts or on the products, or you know, you might get a company car or a uniform or a clothing allowance or a travel allowance, or you know, you might get discounted health insurance, or you know, coffee and tea in the staff room, is you know, they don't actually have to provide that. All of those benefits of working for a particular organisation fall into that rewarding package. So that's about also being, you can sort of be strategic about that, and we'll talk about that when we come to week, I don't know what it is, week 8. The strategic processes around deciding how you're going to remunerate staff, how you're going to be competitive in the labour market to attract people, and how also are we going to link rewards to, how are we going to reward people, and are we going to link rewards to performance? So there's always a debate there about whether or not we actually, you know, reward that in some kind of financial way or some other way. Okay? If so, how do we measure performance to make sure that we're being fair about how we reward performance? You know, so there's a bit of a tension there as well. Okay, great. What about managing employment relations? What do you think's involved there?
Make sure staff's happy, I guess.
Making sure staff are happy? Yeah, absolutely. What are the easiest way to make staff happy, do you think?
I don't know. I suppose it's kind of listening and doing. But I've kind of put like the sort of work as the middleman in that kind of position, because we've got to deal with people that are higher up and be working on doing things that are right for the organisation and things that are right for the staff. And I kind of put stuff like managing meetings, perhaps, especially if it's meetings around the Act, or changing or creating different organisational policies and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So when it comes to managing that employment relationship, a lot of that is around the sort of contractual and legal side of it. So, you know, disciplinary processes that can be a part of that. You know, managing, making sure that you're managing the duties, like you said, and monitoring how job responsibilities are achieved. There's a lot around making sure you have good knowledge of employment law. That's a big role for HR, because if you don't follow the right processes, then you open the organisation up to risk of somebody taking a personal grievance against the organisation. So, and we'll look more at those aspects as well, because, you know, sometimes if I'm talking about something and you have no idea what I'm talking about, please just tell me and put your hand up and ask, what is Kate, what is a personal grievance? Just say, okay, just stop me. But, you know, we'll look into it later on as we go, but obviously, so contracts, negotiating, whether that's with individuals or whether that's the unions. So if there's a union involved in your particular industry, there's a lot involved in managing those relationships with the union as well. Negotiations, bargaining, disputes, discipline, and also they put in there ending the employment relationship, so the sort of final side of it. So really, when you start to break it down like that, you start to see that there's a huge amount involved in HR's sort of responsibilities, eh? Yeah. So it does take quite a lot of knowledge and skill and ability on people undertaking an HR role to actually to be able to fulfill all of that. And it's not necessarily that you have one person who can do all of it. Although in a small organisation, if you've got one HR person, then they will be doing most of that. But it is about, in a larger organisation, you might have an overall HR director or such, and then you might have somebody who manages training and development, somebody else who manages pay, somebody else who manages health and safety, somebody else who manages performance. Okay? So you can actually break that down and specialise in particular areas.
Yeah.
HR as a career is is a really good option to go into. I put a little bit of information on Moodle about just a 2-page sheet around career prospects for working in HR, and it's certainly if you are interested in working with people, it's definitely a very people-focused role. You have to be able to, in order to achieve these, interact and communicate well with employees, with managers and senior executives, and unions and a whole range of people. Yeah. So definitely, as you're going through these different papers that we're doing for this program, start to think, do I really love accounting? Or do I really love HR management? Or do I, really is marketing my thing? You might start to find a bit of a preference as we go. I've put on here the video that in the day in the life of human resources at Quicksilver, so we're just going to watch this together. It is on Moodle, but we might as well watch it and just discuss what do they talk about as the sort of key focus for HR. What's the most value that is for adding, I guess, in terms of HR at Quicksilver. And I take it over here to put the sound in.
I've been with Quicksilver for the past 8 years. It's an awesome company. Not everyone surfs, but everyone has an affinity with the outdoors, and people are really motivated to do a great job. We've got over 500 employees here just within Australia and New Zealand, and over 1,500 across the Asia Pacific region. I'm the HR director, so my job and the job of HR is everything from recruitment. We need to make sure that we've got the right people in the right place at the right time. I do a lot of communication, obviously outside of the country, and maybe working with a supplier on labour hire agreements, making sure the terms and conditions are right for our people. Fundamentally, my job and the job of my team is about keeping people motivated and about developing people, because as we develop people, the company becomes stronger. And I think the challenge is making sure that, with the 500 employees that we have, that we're all aligned with the company direction, and that's a hard thing to do. It is important that people get out and experience our products. That means going for a surf, it means going to the mountains. We encourage people to really live and experience what the company is all about. The typical entry into the industry is with a graduate HR role within a large company. A qualification in HR is almost mandatory, but there's lots of different ways to get that. My advice is look for an industry that you're passionate about, and I guess this isn't just about HR, it's about anything that you do. You're likely to be good at something that you can be passionate about. And I'm passionate about this company, and I'm passionate about the surf industry. Hopefully that shows in the work that I put in for the company and trying to go above and beyond.
what did he say was the key focus for him in his role? People, yeah, developing people, exactly. And what did he say was the key challenge?
Was making sure all of the staff sort of knew and agreed with the values that they had at Quicksilver and the
Yeah.
ideas that
Yeah.
they had.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're onto it. So it was around, keeping everybody on track with company goals. Like when you're talking about 500 people there and then 1,500 people internationally, how do you keep everybody on board with the goals? And so that's showing that he's taking he is taking a strategic focus because he's thinking about the big picture of objectives of the organisation and how every single person can contribute to that big picture. I mean, he says to pick an industry that you love working in and go for that, and that's fantastic advice for sure. But the good thing about HR is it's actually hugely transferable. You know, if you want to work at Quicksilver, or you want to work at a Polytech, or you want to work at a hospital, the HR skills that you develop through courses like this are actually transferable across those different industries. Okay, some of the specifics of how you manage performance or how you reward performance or what are the skills that you're looking for in your employees is going to be perhaps different or usually different, but the skills that you need are going to be very similar, and the knowledge that you need to be very similar. Okay. So that's pretty much us for this week. What you need to do this week: join Moodle, enroll in the Management 101 course, and post your response to the first course forum post, which is assessed, which if I haven't done it already, I will do tomorrow. I think it involves something along the lines of reading the history of human resource management development, which is on Moodle. And then think about how human resource management can help with some of the emerging challenges outlined in the reading. Okay, and then write about 250 words and submit your findings to that discussion board. Okay, and have a think. Like if you read what somebody else has written, do you agree with what they've written or do you disagree, and why? You can comment on other students' posts as well in a nice, constructive way, please. I don't want anybody. There's only like 3 of you, so this will be nice. If there's nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. Go back to that original motto, right? Just have a go at that. If you start looking, if you do that reading and you're feeling really stuck with that task, give me a call or an email and we can have a chat about it. Okay? And just think of the course forum as a relatively friendly, safe place to express some thoughts. Don't be scared that other people are going to read what you're writing and laugh at it. We're not here to do that. We're here to support each other and help each other out. Okay, so you're here to learn off each other as well as from me. All right?
Yep.
That one is an assessed one, 2%. Okay. So have a go.
Okay.
Have a go. Chip away at those little bits of 2%, and before you know it, you've got your 30%. You're almost halfway there. So that's us for today. I give you a little bit of a homework task there as well. Just have a look on Seek or Trade Me Jobs or something, and find an HR manager job. Yeah, or an HR business partner, or a capability and people advisor, whatever. Find something in the HR sort of area and just bring it along to next week's class, and we'll have a chat about what's involved in those particular sort of job advertisements, just the advertisement. Alright? Sound good?
Sounds alright, yeah.
Okay, well done guys.
So should I just write down the job description somewhere? Have a look.
If you look up on like Seek or Trade Me Jobs, or and you go, if you modify the search criteria to HR management, you should come up with like 100 jobs over somewhere throughout the country for HR positions.
Yeah.
Just, you don't need to think about it, but just print out one of those job advertisements
Okay.
and bring it along and we'll discuss it next week.
Oh, okay. I don't really print it on, that's where I can just copy it down.
Yeah, well, okay, if you haven't got a printer, you can take a screenshot on your phone, just bring it along on your phone and we can talk about it on your phone if that's how you want to do it. That's fine. Or you can email it to me and I can print it out for you and bring it. That's another way of doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay?
Fantastic.
Very
Cool.
good. All right. Enjoy. Get started.
Right. I'll see you tomorrow.
You'll see Ian tomorrow. Yeah.
What's Ian doing tomorrow?
Okay.
Oh, my.
You'll be there?
Yeah.
Very good.
I'll see you. Oh, I probably won't see you till next.
Monday.
Nah, because it's July's birthday.
Oh yeah,
It's
that's
his
right.
birthday, so I might come in. I'll see you next Wednesday then, probably. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, my brain doesn't work properly anymore.
Neither.
And so people tell me things like that. Like I know that Chrissy told me that now that I remember that she told me that she wasn't going to be here tonight.
Yeah.
And I said waiting for her for 10 minutes because I thought she was going to be here.
I do the same things.
Never mind.
See ya.
See ya.